Just this past Tuesday, Professor Soyinka made a shocking revelation. The United States has revoked his visa, effectively banning him from entering the North American country. He has attributed this in part to his past candid criticism of US President Donald Trump, whom he once famously called the white version of Idi Amin. Can you imagine that? He called Trump an Idi Amin. So, this isn't just a personal matter. It raises profound questions about free speech, international relations, and the immigration policies. We are going to dive deep into Professor Soyinka's recent press conference, dissect his powerful statements, and then I'll share my critical take on what this means for all of us. But first, sit back and take a watch.
Interesting coincidence about this, that I got that notice of a coming audit just after an accident happened to my green card, which you all know about. So I went to the embassy and said, listen, this is a letter I've just received from the Internal Revenue Service. My green card is no longer usable. I don't want to be advertised as a tax dodger owing the United States money and being chased all over the world with letters and police. I said, I need to go in and answer the audit. And that's exactly what happened. I wish to emphasize that the United States consulate staff was very, very gentle, very courteous. I was treated, like a human being. Let's just put it that way, which is the way I believe all applicants for visas should be treated. And I left there without any. He's a philosopher of the school of the much abused ancient philosopher Heraclitus. And not to mystify that much misunderstood, misquoted philosopher, you can understand him by simply looking at Nigerian philosophy, most prominent and instructive of which was no condition is permanent. So you don't have to even go into into Greek scholarship and statehood. Just look at it, no condition is permanent. And so I said, this person coming in is just promoting that philosophy, which goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks, and of course, to the ancient sages of all societies. No condition is permanent. And I said, he would, however, I predict that his first mission in office will be to prove it by withdrawing all permanent documents, all so-called permanent documents, especially the permanent residence card. So I said, I'll save him time by having an accident happen to my green card, which took the form of my we humanists, we're always looking at gadgets. And unfortunately, when I was looking at my green card, it fell between the fingers of a pair of scissors, and it got cut into a couple of pieces. That's what happened to my green card. People say I destroyed it. No, I didn't destroy it. It just had an accident, that's all. But since then, I've been living, wait, let me make sure. Because very curious things happen to things which I say. That was a joke. I don't want to read in the papers, Wole Soyinka started lying, saying that an accident happened to his green card. Please, I have to be very careful. All right. So anyway, I no longer had a green card. That's what matters. That's how I demoted myself by circumstances from permanent residence to just another tourist business entry and depart. By coincidence, when I read that letter of revocation, I actually had some American citizens visiting me. They came for the Badagry Door Return Festival, and from there they came to visit in Abeokuta. I wasn't there, but they were made at home and they were able to go around the place and even have. At the beginning, I said, could it be that they're angry that I'm hosting their citizens just when they are reconsidering, or they've invited me? Was what happened on that date, November 11, many years ago. So it was rather unfortunate that they picked that date. And I said, sorry, I'm superstitious. I'm not coming on that date. And then ultimately, I made it clear I was also not going to apply for another date to bring in my passport. So I left, I traveled out. When I came back, or even before I came back, I got a letter from the ambassador. What is that? What is our problem there? Is the house falling down or something? Just give me notice so I know which direction to run. So I got a letter from the ambassador. Very nice letter, very courteous. I wish always to stress this, that I have absolutely nothing against individual citizens as citizens of any nation. This is an issue which concerns the government. I have continuing good relationship with members of the consulate, the embassy. I received nothing but courteous treatment from them. I want to stress that. And so I received this letter in which he informed me that he was away when that letter was sent, and that if I would please give him a call, he would try and explain the circumstances and so on and so forth. When I came back again, I got a letter, a reminder that I should call him. So I called. We arranged a call meeting. I think it was 4 o'clock about a week ago. And he explained, and again he offered a special visit by me. I'd be received by the consul, and then they would ask a few questions about the possible facts which existed that they didn't know about when this visa was issued. He spoke frankly, and I said, shall I be equally frank with you? I'm not interested. It has nothing to do with me personally. It has to do with the treatment which I know, the brutal, cruel, and often unbelievable treatment being meted out to strangers, immigrants, even in some cases, permanent residents, which of course include quite a number of Nigerians. I know of a number of Nigerians who were turned back, who live in the United States, who've lived there all their lives. Some of them have businesses, they have grown-up children, families who are even citizens of our country, but who just left in the normal way to visit home, and then found at the airport they weren't allowed to get on that plane. Because in the meantime, either their visas were under examination or had in fact been revoked, but they were not allowed to go back there, etc., etc. I don't want to run into you all know what's been going on. It's all over the media. You have friends, you have families there. So I said, it's not about me. I'm not really interested in going back to the United States. I said, but a principle is involved. Human beings deserve to be treated decently wherever they are, wherever they drop their buckets, even places where they're just visiting briefly. I said, I'm sorry, I will not apply for a new date. So he sighed and said he was very sorry, but that meant that my visa would be revoked. I said, by all means, I'd be willing to receive the letter of revocation. And I assured him that both he and his staff are given permanent visa waiver anytime they want to visit the Autonomous Republic of Ijegba, situated in Abeokuta. There will be no reciprocal conduct from my principality. So he left, and eventually, of course, the formal letter arrived, and I received it. So it's necessary for me to give this press conference so that people in the States who are expecting me for this event or that event, or were thinking of it, not to waste their time. I have no visa. I am banned, obviously, from the United States. And if you want to see me, you know where to find me. It's elementary as that. There's a comment which is necessary. So I ask myself, however, the visa doling department is now looking into past history, because this is a statement that certain facts have come up. I mean, we're talking about thousands of people, by the way. I want us always to bear that in mind. So they've dug backwards, and if you remember, there were statements to the effect that anybody with any past criminal act, even felony, just misdemeanor, was qualified for revocation of visa. So I had to start looking back. Have I ever misbehaved in the United States? Do I have a history? Have I been convicted? Have I gone against the law anywhere? And I remembered finally 2 instances, which I want to make public now, in case it is brought up later on. So they will say, you hid that one. I remember pleading guilty at the airport one day. I was landing in Chicago. That's my first major production in the United States. We were in rehearsals at the time, Death and the King's Horseman. And the night before I left, I had to dash to London and then return for rehearsals. The night before, I'd gone to an Indian restaurant in London. And as usual, when I go to, when I am in those cold, wintry countries, I always carry peppers with me. At that restaurant, which is Indian, when I was leaving, I put a few green chilies in my pocket just to keep me going when I got back to Chicago. I forgot to declare those chilies. So I'm warning you now that you may learn that I was convicted for carrying some small chilies, because at the airport they wanted to charge me to court. And they said, but I could plead guilty and pay a fine. I think I remembered paying about $25 or so, for a few chilies. So that's one. That was one possible crime that could have been dug up, and I'd forgotten all about it, quite frankly. That's my fault. So that's one. 2, AMSAC. AMSAC is acronym for American Society for African Culture. AMSAC had a huge international conference, I think some years also just before that, early 70s. I'm not good at dates. Anyway, and it took place in Atlanta, Americana, a motel in Atlanta at the time. And I fought I don't mean physically. I had, shall we say, a confrontation with the police, some racist conduct by the receptionist led to the police being called. And this police came and was trying to throw his weight around and so on. So I can be convicted, if you like, for, shall we say, for disobeying orders from law officers of the United States. This was at least 30 years ago. And eventually, I ended up, as a matter of fact, what is the expression again?
Welcome back. That was quite a compelling and at times surprisingly humorous statement from Professor Soyinka. Let us break down the key points from his address in more details. Number 1, the accident to his green card. Professor Soyinka recounts a rather interesting coincidence where he received a notice for an upcoming audit on his green card He then humorously clarified that this coincides with an accident where his green card fell between fingers of a pair of scissors. He emphasizes he didn't deliberately destroy it, but he just had an accident. Secondly, courteous treatment at the consulate. So despite the serious nature of the situation, Soyinka was keen to highlight that the US consulate staff treated him with remarkable gentleness and courtesy. He underscores that he was treated like a human being, which he believes is how all visa applicants should be treated. The next one is the philosophy of impermanence, connecting his situation to ancient philosophy. Soyinka referenced Heraclitus and the Yoruba saying that no condition is permanent. He even predicted that the incoming political figure, presumably referring to a new US administration, would prove this philosophy by withdrawing all permanent documents, especially the permanent residence card. This, he implies, was why he preempted the revocation by having the accident happen to his card. The next is a stance of principle. Soyinka clearly stated that he has absolutely nothing against individual citizens of the United States, but his issue concerned the government's policies. He expressed deep concern over brutal, cruel, and often unbelievable treatment meted out to strangers, immigrants, and even permanent residents, including a significant number of Nigerians. The next is past incidents revealed. In light of his visa issue, Professor Soyinka publicly disclosed two past incidents. The first was an oversight at Chicago Airport where he forgot to declare a few small green chilies he was carrying from London, resulting in a $25 fine. The second, dated back at least 30 years, involved a confrontation with the police in Atlanta following racist conduct by a hotel receptionist, which led to him being detained. He implied these historical events are not being dug up by the US Visa Department to justify the revocation. So, from my own perspective or take on this, Professor Soyinka's narrative is a potent blend of personal experience, philosophical reflection of the sharp political critic. The revocation of a Nobel Laureate visa is not merely a bureaucratic decision. It is an event that carries significant symbolic weight on the global stage. His decision to publicly reveal the details, even the seemingly minor ones like the chilies or a decade-old policy incident, transformed his personal ordeal into a powerful commentary on broader issue of freedom of expression, fairness in immigration policies, and the dignity of individuals. He consciously reframes his ban not as a personal defeat, but as a confirmation of what he sees as systematic issue within the US government's treatment of non-citizens. By declaring he is not interested in going back to the US, but insists that a principle is involved, he elevates the conversation from his individual access to universal rights to decent treatment and respect. This highlights his enduring commitment to human rights and justice, even when it comes at a personal cost. His press conference is a direct challenge, forcing a global spotlight on what he perceived as injustice and discriminatory system. This entire situation compels us to question how nations treat those who critique them and the consistency of their stated values regarding human rights and equitable treatment. It is a reminder that the personal often reflects the political. So Professor Wole Soyinka, ever the advocate, continues to use his voice to champion principles of justice and dignity. His message resonates far beyond his personal visa status. What are your thoughts on this complex issue? Do you believe his outspoken criticism of leaders like Donald Trump played a role? Or are these past incidents truly the basis for the US decision? Share your opinion in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful, please hit the like button, share this video with your friends and network, and don't forget to subscribe to Obas Trending Gist for more compelling stories and critical analysis. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and keep the conversation going.